everyone. Just wanted to make sure the sound is right. My name is Lise Foket. I'm a PhD researcher from Ghent University, and I'm happy to present here a case that's part of my PhD, which I titled Bridging Digital Heritage and Humanities, talking a little bit about the bridges, and I will do that through a qualitative analysis on Omeka S. So I'm sure that a lot of people here are familiar already with Omeka S. Can you raise your hand if you've heard or worked with it? Okay, great. For the people who, so Omeka S is a software that basically allows you to manage collections and create digital exhibitions around those collections, and it's very widely used in the digital humanities and the digital heritage world, as most of you know. And that to me makes it very interesting to study how it bridges these two different communities with the shared needs for managing and presenting heritage collections. So in this presentation, I will try to go to my next slide. But okay, I will talk a little bit about my research questions. First, what are the motivations for using Omeka S? I wanted to answer this question to help contribute a little bit to understand and contextualize you why we use open source software, even because it is used in so many different contexts. So hopefully to give a bit of holistically overview on this, and then I will try to answer the question, which audiences do this project target and to what extent do they engage them? And with this research question, I want to add to the debates that are going on in the digital public history field, where we need to evaluate and reflect on the practices that we do, include audiences, and so with this, I want to see the outputs of Omeka S projects. Which audiences are they including? Are they targeting? And how are they engaging them? So my methodology is I'm doing a qualitative analysis, and I'm relying on data that, firstly, a questionnaire that was sent to Omeka S initiators, which I got 38 respondents, and then secondly, Omeka S websites, where I looked at mission statements and particularly paid attention to audiences that they're addressing and how the projects came to be. And so I've put the data in the table and I've coded that based on the questions. So let's go over the results. What are some of the main motivations for using Omeka S? We could distinguish three different categories. Firstly, related to reaching certain objectives. So the most recurring answer was that Omeka S was used to create digital exhibitions, and very closely tied to that was for valorization or dissemination of science and heritage. However, that reason was not complete. The first main objective was not completely disconnected from the second one, with it's oftentimes the interconnection of being able to manage data and being able to create an exhibition around it. That were one of the main motivations that people chose to use Omeka S for their projects. Teaching and education was also mentioned a couple of times, a little bit less than the other two. And in that context, it was mostly to teach digital literacy skills and for teaching archival skills, or it was a co-created student project. So secondly, why are people choosing Omeka S? Were related to the software development model, and their respondents identified that it being open source, it being very flexible, you can contribute to the source code. It keeps recurring costs to a minimum because it's free, because you can self-host, we're widely recurrent, and also the community around Omeka S and sort of the team of you're able to rely on a supportive network were one of the main reasons that people are using Omeka S. And then thirdly, functionalities. What was highly recurring was IIIF, the standard that it integrates IIIF, even though it's a module. A lot of the respondents felt that it was one of the main motivations. So that sort of tie to standards that are widely used in the heritage sector is very important, and then also that it's linked data by design and it incorporates metadata and ontologies. Came out of the results. Now I'll go over my second research question, which is seeing how these projects are targeting various audiences and to what extent they're engaging them. And so this is preliminary results. I need to refine it a little bit. But what I found is that 35% of the front-facing projects that I studied mentioned that they're targeted to the general public, or they did not mention any audience. Then secondly was communities. This was very diverse, but it was mostly volunteer organizations or organizations around a certain hobby or a special interest. And then also educational communities, so teachers, educators were mentioned a lot of the times. And then in that sense, it were mostly projects that were intended to be used as an educational resource, to be used during teaching, or also using Omeka S during the teaching practices itself. And then nextly, researchers were mostly in the context of digital archives that were making source material available to researchers in the hope that that material would get studied more and be part of more research, and also ethnic groups and creative practitioners. The creative practitioners were mostly artists that were collaborators of those projects through, for example, creating illustrations for the Omeka S website. Then nextly, I wanted to see how are these projects trying to engage or involve certain audiences, and for that I relied on the engagement spectrum, which I adapted from Elizabeth Power's study, but she also adapted it from other people, so I don't actually really know who first came up with it, but it's basically a sort of spectrum and to identify how people engage, how projects engage audiences, with publicity being the more common science communication, participatory being crowdsourcing tasks, asking people to participate in smaller ways, and with collaborative and co-creative projects, giving more authority over the end goals of the projects to audiences. And so I've sort of also preliminary results mapped that to the projects in Omeka S, and I found that most of the projects were trying to engage the audiences through publicity, being able to explore a collection, to look at different items, and it was less collaborative and co-creative than the first two categories. It's still an ongoing research. What I got from these current results is that Omeka S is an essential part of digital humanities and heritage infrastructure. The team of support and the variety of motivations that can be tied to different aspects of those communities makes that very clear. What I think is that the software really drives collaboration and support within and between institutions. And I think you could see that it was oftentimes collaborations within the same institutions, but for example, different centers or within that. So trying to bridge scientific and researchers and teachers, for example, and trying to bridge, for example, the university library with also scientists. So I think that's where the sort of collaborative efforts of Omeka S really comes into play. But there's still, in a lot of those projects, a tendency to target no audience or the general public, which, and indeed dissemination is more dominant than other participatory methods. You could say that that can, I still have to sort of figure out why and sort of explain that. But yeah, that was my main conclusion. I still have to distinguish also a little bit more between audiences and stakeholders. Sort of put them under the same umbrella now, but of course, when you're in co-creative project, the audiences sort of become the stakeholders. So yeah, I sort of have to divide a little bit between that, and I will also look at continue to look at the content, like what the content on the sites are, and if there are certain trends there. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I'm really happy to be here, and really also happy afterwards to hear any feedback and questions. It would be so helpful for me and my PhD. So thank you.